Today, we're diving into a single, powerful question that's echoing from halls of government all the way to the streets of protest. Who holds power accountable?
So think about this for a second. You've got a British royal wrapped up in a scandal, student revolutionaries who are literally shaping an election in Bangladesh, and an Israeli prime minister on a really urgent diplomatic mission. I mean, they seem like they're worlds apart, right? But what if I told you they're all part of the exact same story?
It all boils down to one word: accountability. From the ballot box to the palace, from secret negotiations to shadow wars at sea, people are demanding answers. Power is being put on trial, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today. All right, so our first stop is Bangladesh. This is a nation at a really critical moment, getting ready for its first general election since a pretty dramatic and, frankly, violent transfer of power.
So, this number, 1,400, that's not just a statistic. That is the human cost of change. Over 1,400 people were killed in the mass uprising back in July 2024 that ended a 15-year rule. And that sacrifice is now fueling this intense demand for a government that is finally, truly accountable to its people. So on the ground, the political landscape is now basically defined by two major forces. On one side, you have the established Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the BNP. And on the other, you have an alliance that actually includes the student leaders from that uprising, who are now organized as the National Citizen Party. This is a huge shift. The protest movement has become a formal political power. And listen to this promise from a leading candidate. This is the key takeaway here. It's a direct appeal to this powerful new force of Gen Z voters, and their number one demand is a corruption-free, accountable government. This isn't just a campaign slogan, right? It's proof that the demands people were making in the streets are now setting the entire political agenda.
Okay, so let's shift from a new democracy over to one of the world's oldest monarchies, where a crisis of accountability is unfolding right inside the royal family itself. The pressure on the former Prince Andrew, now Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, has really hit a boiling point. So let's look at how we got here. Back in November 2010, he allegedly shared government trade secrets with Jeffrey Epstein. Then you fast forward to 2022, and he settles a civil suit with Virginia Giuffre. And right now, police are actively looking into new allegations from those recently released Epstein files. Now, this statement from the king, it's very, very carefully worded, but the message is loud and clear. The monarchy will cooperate with a potential criminal investigation. It's basically a public admission that nobody is above the law, and that the palace itself is being held accountable. And then you see this from Prince William, which really highlights the pressure coming from inside the family. By focusing on the victims, he's signaling a huge departure from that traditional stiff upper lip response. It really feels like a generational shift, and a recognition that the monarchy's legitimacy now depends on moral accountability, not just legal. All right, let's switch gears. We've talked personal accountability, now let's talk geopolitical accountability. We're heading into the high-stakes negotiations between the United States and Iran, where Israel is making a pretty dramatic move to try and influence the outcome. Seven meetings in just over a year. I mean, think about that. That is an intense level of coordination between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it really underscores a unified and, an assertive strategy towards Iran. But here's the problem. The negotiations are fundamentally stuck. The U.S. is demanding a complete stop to uranium enrichment and wants to include Iran's missile program in any talks. Iran, on the other hand, is insisting that sanctions have to be lifted first, and they refuse to negotiate on anything but their nuclear program. And this is why Netanyahu made that urgent trip to Washington. He isn't just sitting back and waiting to see what happens. He is actively trying to hold the negotiation process itself accountable to Israel's security interests, presenting his vision directly to President Trump to shape the terms of any deal that might happen. For our final story, we're going somewhere completely different. We're moving to the open waters of the Eastern Pacific, where accountability is being questioned in a literal life or death context, and it's all happening far from public view. Lethal kinetic strike. That is the official U.S. military term for a deadly attack on a boat. The language is so clinical, isn't it? It's a stark contrast to the violent reality it's actually describing. And look, this wasn't an isolated incident. These numbers reveal a much broader campaign. Since January 2026, we're talking about around 37 attacks on 39 different vessels, which resulted in over 130 deaths. The sheer scale of these operations just raises profound questions about accountability.
And this is the central question that legal scholars and human rights groups are asking. Out in these international waters, who holds the U.S. accountable? The accusation is that in these strikes against suspected narco-terrorists, the U.S. military is acting as judge, jury, and executioner, and that raises some very serious concerns about extrajudicial killings.
So, a mass uprising in Bangladesh, a royal scandal in London, a diplomatic showdown over Iran, and a shadow war at sea. Okay, let's tie this all together.
The crucial point here, the thread connecting every single one of these stories, is this powerful demand for answers. In Bangladesh, you have voters who want an end to corruption. In the UK, the monarchy itself is facing police scrutiny. In Washington, Israel is demanding that its security concerns shape negotiations. And out in the Pacific, critics are demanding legal justification for these lethal strikes.
And that leaves us with a final, really critical question. Whether we're talking about the rules of governance, diplomacy, or warfare, power is being challenged. And as all these stories show, the battle over who is held accountable and how is what's defining our world right now. So, who gets to write the rules? And maybe more importantly, who gets to enforce them?